Good day, everyone. My name is John Cesar C. Pineda, and my topic for today is about the ecosystem, biotic and abiotic components, the structures and functions of the ecosystem. The ecosystem. The term ecosystem was first coined by A.G. Tansley, an English botanist, in 1935. The ecosystem is a community of living organisms in conjunction with non-living components of their environment, interacting as a system. It is the structural and functional unit of ecology where the living organisms interact with each other and the surrounding environment. In other words, an ecosystem is a chain of interactions between organisms and their environment. The ecosystem contains biotic or living parts as well as abiotic factors or non-living parts. So, the ecosystem consists of all living and non-living organisms like plants, animals, and other organisms as well as weather and landscapes that work together to form a circle of life. Structure of the ecosystem. The structure of an ecosystem is characterized by the organization of both biotic and abiotic components. This includes the distribution of energy in our environment. It also includes the climatic conditions prevailing in that particular area or environment. The biotic and abiotic components are interrelated in an ecosystem. It is an open system where the energy and components can flow throughout the boundaries. So, in structure of the ecosystem, under ecosystem we have abiotic components and biotic components. So, let's start with abiotic components. Abiotic components. The abiotic components include all the non-living things such as rocks, soil, minerals, water sources, and the local atmosphere. Similar to biotic components, the abiotic components also have their ecological role. For example, elements and compounds serve as a source of nutrients. They are essential to the growth and metabolism of an organism. Apart from providing nutrients, they also provide organisms a place to live and thrive, like a habitat. So, the abiotic components are non-living organisms that helps provide nutrients, habitat, etc. to the living organisms. Under abiotic components, we have two factors. The climatic factor, which are the temperature of the region or climatic warming, duration of ablation season, proportion of winter and summer precipitation, etc. And another one is the edaphic factors, which are the soil properties that affect the diversity of organisms living in the soil environment. This includes soil, pH levels, minerals, and topography. Next is we have biotic component. The biotic components refer to all life in an ecosystem. Basically, there are two major types of living things. They are the eukaryotes and the prokaryotes. Eukaryotes are characterized by having membrane-bound organelles such as a nucleus inside their cells. The prokaryotes, in turn, are those lacking membrane-bound organelles. Based on nutrition, biotic components can be characterized in autotrophs, heterotrophs, and saprotrophs, or decomposers. So the biotic components is basically all the living organisms in an ecosystem, and these organisms are divided into two major types, which are the eukaryotes and prokaryotes. Eukaryotes are organisms whose cells have a nucleus and other organelles, while on the other hand we have the prokaryotes, which are organisms whose cells lack a nucleus and other organelles. Under the biotic components, we have the autotrophs, heterotrophs, and the saprotrophs. So let's start with the autotrophs. Autotrophs are known as producers because they are able to make their own food from raw materials and energy. From the word auto, autotrophs are able to make their own food by themselves without the help of other organisms. Next, we have heterotrophs. Heterotrophs are known as consumers because they consume producers or other consumers. From the Greek word hetero, which means other, and troph, which means nourishment, heterotrophs depend on other organisms for nourishments. Next is we have saprotroph. The etymology of the word saprotroph comes from the Greek word sapros, which means rotten or putrid, and troph, which means nourishment. Saprotrophs are organisms that feed on non-living organic matter known as detritus at a microscopic level. So, saprotrophs, from the word sapro, which means rotten, putrid, they feed on decaying organic matter for their nourishments. In the biotic components, we have producers, consumers, and decomposers. So let's start with producers. Producers include all autotrophs such as plants. They are called autotrophs as they can produce food through the process of photosynthesis. Consequently, all other organisms higher up on the food chain rely on producers for food. The best examples of producers are plants, lichens, and algae, which convert water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide into carbohydrates. Next is we have consumers, or heterotrophs. These are organisms that depend on other organisms for food. Consumers are further classified into primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. Primary consumers are always herbivores that they rely on producers for food. Secondary consumers depend on primary consumers for energy. They can either be a carnivore or an omnivore. Tertiary consumers are organisms that depend on secondary consumers for food. Tertiary consumers can also be an omnivore. Quaternary consumers are present in some food chains. These organisms prey on tertiary consumers for energy. Furthermore, they are usually at the top of the food chain as they have no natural predators. There are also types of consumers. These are the herbivores, which are living things that eat only plant. These animals include whales, elephants, cows, pigs, rabbits, etc. Next, we have carnivores, which are living things that only eat meat. Animals like owls, tigers, sharks, cougars, and many more are considered carnivores. Then we have the omnivores. Omnivores are living things that eat both plants and animals to get energy. Animals like brown bear, dogs, turtles, raccoons, and even some people are considered as omnivores. Next is we have decomposers. It includes saprophytes such as fungi and bacteria. They directly thrive on the dead and decaying organic matter. Decomposers are essential for the ecosystem as they help in recycling nutrients to be reused by plants. Some examples of decomposers include bacteria, fungi, insects, snails, and some more. Moving on, we have the functions of ecosystem. The functions of the ecosystem are as follows. It regulates the essential ecological processes that supports life systems and renders stability. Next, it is also responsible for the cycling of nutrients between biotic and abiotic components. It maintains a balance among the various trophic levels in the ecosystem. It cycles the minerals throughout the biosphere. Lastly, the abiotic components help in the synthesis of organic components that involves the exchange of energy. For the conclusion, therefore, The functional units of an ecosystem, or functional components that work together in an ecosystem, are: number one, we have productivity. It refers to the rate of biomass production. Next is we have energy flow. It is the sequential process through which energy flows from one trophic level to another. The energy captured from the sun flows from the producers to consumers and then to decomposers and finally back to the environment. Next, we have decomposition. It is the process of breakdown of dead organic material. The topsoil is the major site for decomposition. And lastly, we have nutrient cycling. In an ecosystem, nutrients are consumed and recycled back into various forms for the utilization by various organisms. That's all. Thank you.